Currently a solutions consultant for Adobe, he's the author of books and articles on Lightroom, Photoshop, digital fluency, and media topics, and a regular contributor to Adobe Stock. Thank you, Jim, and I'll turn it over to you, and I'll just mute us for now. Should folks hold their questions till the end?
We can be as interactive as we want. If it's a burning question, feel free to stop me. I can talk for hours, so feel free to interrupt.
Okay.
And if it's something that can wait, well, I'm happy to answer it at the end as well.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks again, Jim.
Okay. All right. So, hey, everybody, thank you so much. And thank you, Katie, for that introduction. It gives you sort of a snapshot of who I am. I've been in the communications industry, gosh, since before I left college. So that's a long time ago. My background is photography. I was trained in college as a journalist and was a teacher for 20 plus years before joining Adobe. So I still do a lot of photography. It's not my main business, but I have a couple of shows running right now. Actually, I'm just tomorrow going to set a new one up at a local regional area where our cottage is, and excited to do that. And it's working out quite nice. So thanks for joining today, both in person and online. We've got a lot of cool stuff to cover. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we will get going. All right. So you should see this little QR code that's sitting here. Feel free to, I sent this to Katie as well, but you can take a shot of this with your phone. It'll take you to a direct link to one of the resources that I'll be referencing today. That's sort of a list of other links more than anything else, but feel free to use that. I built this in one of the tools we'll be talking about today, Adobe Express. And the whole idea behind what we're doing today and what we're going to be looking at from an Adobe Technologies perspective is basically the fact that, well, everyone has a story to tell, right? And I think that's a really key thing to remember here. Is what you're doing with your brand, what you're doing with your portfolio, how you're communicating your skills. It's all about your story, right? It's about what you're telling other people about how you are as a creative, as a professional, and essentially proving to people that don't necessarily know you all that well that you are someone who can get the job done and do it well. What we have learned in the past 3 years, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, but so much of what we're doing for work is done remotely. This is one classic example. But what's happened more so than ever is that we are now living in a global marketplace. And what I mean by that, as cliche as that sounds, is that your customers, your clients, don't have to be in your city, in your state, in your country. You can literally work for anyone and be paid by them. We have multiple ways to get compensated these days through various bits of amazing technology. So building out your personal digital online brand is so critical, because in many cases, you may find that you're not even meeting that customer or that client in the same room at all. You may be having a conversation just like this remotely. And that brand that represents you online is what will help get you that work. All right. What we're going to focus on today are 3 main different Adobe technologies or services. I won't be able to go deep into any one of them, but I hope to spark your interest and provide you with a lot of resources that can help get you going. Some of them you may already be using. All right. So feel free to ask questions if you have them about any of these things as we move along. We're going to be looking at Adobe Behance, Adobe Portfolio, and also Adobe Express. And we're seeing Express actually in action right now. This little 2-slide deck that I created with that QR code and this little animation were built in Adobe Express in about 20 minutes. All right. So we're going to start, though, over here at Behance. Adobe Behance, for those of you who don't know, think of it like LinkedIn for creatives. Okay. It is a complete ecosystem with infrastructure and support built in for social media, for building a community, establishing followers, and also from a personal perspective, getting inspired by other creatives' work. we're seeing me logged in here right now at my Behance portal. Over on the left-hand side is essentially a very minimalist online resume. Ways to contact me, links to projects, work experience, a little bit of a biography, and also some of the tools that I use very regularly are listed here as well. And so at a glance, someone who might be considering hiring me gets a sense of what I can do. In fact, I even have, and this is new within the past 3 weeks, 4 weeks, this new area here called Hire Me. And basically, what that allows me to do is I can turn that on and essentially make people aware that I'm available for full-time work, for part-time work, like freelance or projects specifically. I can edit that availability at any time. And because of that, as someone visiting the Behance site, I could actually contact a user who's a member who's available and have a discussion, maybe get a quote and pull them in. So Behance is a lot different than, say, just a website. All right. It's a lot different than a variety of different things. It kind of combines a website and social media and ways to get paid, get work, all inside of one place. And the beauty of it is it's designed to be very simple to maintain and manage. And that's one of the things I like about it. I don't have to think a lot about building out projects here that I'm going to showcase, because the creation process for Behance is very, very straightforward. It's very simple. It's meant to be simple. What the goal of Behance is for you to showcase your work without getting too deep involved in learning technology, but also making it easy and fast to do. And if I scroll through here just briefly, this is my main sort of page here. I make a lot of content. I can keep talking for another 5 minutes and I'll be still scrolling. I build out a lot of content. Some of it's work related, some of it's personal interest, some of it's tutorials. There's a whole range of different things. And I can move over any one of these if I want to. In fact, I just published this one this morning and open that up to view and see the content, right? Much like social media, we've got the ability here as a visitor to appreciate a project. So I could start to get a little bit of statistics on my projects, on how many times they've been viewed, how many times they've been appreciated. So that's kind of a nice little piece of information to have. And it can help you sort of, as you're building out projects, help you decide maybe where to focus or refocus your efforts in terms of what's being viewed most. Okay. So a lot of content here. I'm not going to get into each individual project by any means. It's all there if you want to go and check it out. But let's take a look at the rest of the interface here. The very top upper left is our main Behance logo. Because I'm logged in, I have actually curated content has been created for me, shared with me rather, of other creatives based on my interests, based on projects I may have viewed from other people. And I can click on that and I can actually see other types of projects that may be of interest to me. And I mentioned earlier, my background is photography, but I find myself looking at things like filmmaking, animation, illustration, painting, far more than I ever would have thought possible, because the content is here for me to see and react to. And I really like looking at illustrative work because it's a different approach to how you manage things like light and shadow and color. It's still a two-dimensional representation like photography, but it's done in a different manner. So it's kind of neat to see how other artists are creating content. Anytime I want, I can go back to that main portal. I can also discover new content that's been recently released. There's a direct link to what we call Behance live streams. This is an area where we have industry professionals, subject matter experts, Adobe specialists, all doing live presentations about techniques, technology, software, the industries. And there's quite a range of content here. If you'd never checked this out, the beauty of this is not only can I see something live and interact, we're watching right now, but everything that's done here is recorded. So even if I miss something I wanted to see, I'm a big fan of Terry White, another photographer who works for Adobe. If I miss one of his sessions and I really want to see it, I can find his work. If he's done it through Behance, I can find it here. And there he is there, all the ways to share your photos in Lightroom. You'll notice that you can search based on topics like photography, based on products like Adobe Fresco, things along those lines. So there's lots of different ways to find content. And as I showed you briefly a few minutes ago, there's this whole concept of getting work, right? You'll see here the last two links in this top menu, hire and jobs. If I choose hire, I'm basically the person looking for people, right? And I can do a full search here and find and sort by the types of creative fields that I may be interested in. And then search based on geography, search based on whether I want to look for freelancers or full-time people. And I also see a lot of that work presented for me right here. And this will update as I make changes to the filters over on the left-hand side. So as someone looking to hire someone, this can be really, really beneficial. And on the other side, as a creative who's put content in Behance, I can check out what jobs are available because employers can also post jobs. And not only can I see there's 175 freelance jobs available right now, 130 full-time, I can go and look at these. I can actually apply online if I want to through Behance. And again, because I may want to search for specific strengths I have. Maybe I'm a designer, maybe I'm a filmmaker, maybe I'm a photographer. I can put in keywords here. I can search based on regions. Okay, I'm based in Canada, in Toronto, Ontario, so it's defaulting to Canada for me, but I don't have to do that. I can select any country I want. If I want to do that search, I can also go and search based on the various creative fields that you're allowed to incorporate into your projects. Okay, so that's a really great sort of way to sort of see what's going on, what's popular, what the needs are. All right, I'm going to go back to that main portal page again. And just above my projects, okay, all these thumbnails here, you'll see another set of menus. This is available because I'm logged in. I'm seeing options here that I wouldn't see if I was just a visitor. But I'm also able to, interact with these things. So right now we're on the work category. This is all my published content. Anything I publish is visible to anyone who can find it. And I tend to share my content quite a bit through social media. So the hope is people do find it. If you take a really close look here in the middle of the screen, you'll see this particular project has had 7 appreciations and 80 views. Okay, so I get a sense of what's going on there. So that's the work area. I can also, as a creative, set up a subscriber area. And what that means is like YouTube, like Vimeo, I could set up an area where I produce premium content that you essentially have to pay for as a subscriber. So I can make a little bit of money in the process. Now, I may want to spend time building up my brand first before I start doing that, but it is an option for you. Because I'm a contributor to Adobe Stock, that's our photography creative assets service. We have over 300 million, close to 400 million assets now on Adobe Stock: photography, video, animation, 3D content, illustrations, vectors, audio content. These are all different areas where we get content from our professional global contributor base. Right, I'm one of those people. So as a stock contributor, I can actually connect Behance to my Adobe Stock portfolio of work. And if I click on that, either as a contributor, like I am right now, as in my own page, or if I was visiting, I would actually be able to also view that content. And as I mouse over these assets, it'll show the last 1,000 stock assets that I've created. And as you can see, I take a lot of pictures, a lot of trees and rocks. Not the best money-making options for stock photography because everybody takes pictures of landscapes, but it's what I like, and I'm not trying to make a living here. I'm just having fun. But I can click on any one of these. This shot of the northern cardinal here, and you'll see a little icon that says download on Adobe Stock. It'll take me right out to the Adobe Stock website, where as a buyer, I can license that asset for use in an upcoming project or campaign. It may take a second or two to load up, but you get the general idea. There it is there. Then I see a much larger version. I can see what it's going to cost, and I can either save it to a Creative Cloud library as a preview so I can start working with it in a project to see if it's going to work and do what I want it to do. Or I can go ahead and license it immediately, pay for it at that time, and download the full resolution version at that moment. So that's kind of cool. All right, so there we go. Back over here. And NFTs, if that's something you've been hearing about or are interested in, I don't know a lot about it. I know that we support pulling in various different NFT servers. I think that's the right term, and I could be wrong. But if you're interested in that kind of thing and showcasing that kind of work, we do support it through Behance, which is kind of cool. Live streams, not only can I create a subscriber area, showcase my work like I'm doing here, but I can create my own live streams. I can start a project and launch a live stream while I'm working on that project and literally broadcast it out for those who are interested in listening. I can make source files available if I want to for people to look at and view. Mood boards is an interesting concept because this is something both visitors and contributors to Behance can make use of. Basically, it's a way to collect work. It could be your work, it could be your own personal work, it could be work of people that inspire you on Behance. And I use it a lot for talking to customers on the kinds of work that they can find, the kinds of projects, the kinds of content they'll find on Behance. So you can see I've got one here on academic research. And if I click on that, it's just a collection of projects from students from across the globe that tie in with that particular topic, right? So it's a great way to sort of keep a group of objects together. I can also sort of see my statistics, as I mentioned earlier, my appreciations and so on. And then down here at the end, I see drafts. This is kind of like my working area. These are all the projects that have not been published. So anything that's in the drafts area is only visible to me from an editing perspective. As soon as I publish it, it's going to be available to anyone who's aware of the link. All right. So let's take a quick look at how to create a project. I won't spend a lot of time here. It's pretty simple though. Very top right, we see share your work. And I have three options here: project, works in progress, live stream. Work in progress is a temporary screen grab, if you will, of something you're currently working on. It lasts for 24 hours and then disappears. Projects are like what you see in my main work area window. I'll just bring that back up. And that basically, if I want to start a new project, it's as simple as clicking on that button. And when I launch that, you can see it loads up pretty quickly. All these icons here are the kinds of content I can include in a project: images, text, a grid of photos or other graphics, video and audio samples. So if I'm doing sound editing or cinematography, I can incorporate that kind of content. I can embed content from other sources. I can pull content in directly from Adobe Lightroom. If I'm a photographer, that's a huge benefit, because if you're using Lightroom, a lot of your stuff is already there. So you can just pull it in without having to do any extra things like export additional images and try to find them later on your hard drive. There's that NFT option I mentioned earlier. You can actually upload interactive prototypes built with tools like Adobe XD, and also 3D content. So these are all the different things you can incorporate. You can start building the project literally just by clicking on any one of these buttons. I'm going to click on the text button. I'm just going to put in a title. I'm not going to do too much here, but I'll just select that text, change the formatting to a header, and then maybe just as I move my cursor down below that text, you'll see I get that little pop-up, and it can tell me, okay, what else do I want to add? Maybe I'm going to add a photo. Okay, so I'm going to click on that graphic, and I've just been, as I mentioned earlier, working on an article I just published, a tutorial. So I'm just going to grab an image from that, just as a random image, and open that up, and it'll drop it into place. And it's all about video and sound editing. And there's your lovely speaker right here in his static glory. So I can add these pieces of content in. I can even add additional search tags, alternate text. I can add a caption. I can replace the image if it's not suitable. I can delete it. Whatever. If I have more content, I can start reordering that content and changing the flow. That happens to me a lot. If I do a long project, I may have to move things around after I'm done because I think something would work better earlier in the project. So that's that. I can continue to add more text. I can upload images. As I mentioned earlier, I can add in a grid of images, and I can do that either by uploading the images themselves from my hard drive, or I can hop right out to Lightroom. And I'll just do a quick show here. This is my Adobe Lightroom online catalog. So this is content that is synced with the cloud. And I can grab a couple of these images. I was out shooting a couple weekends ago with my cousin, who's a news photographer. We were shooting the CN Tower in Toronto at dusk. So I can grab a couple of these images, maybe grab that one and maybe that one of her freezing herself to death. It was one of the coldest nights we've had in Toronto all winter. And then maybe let's grab one more of these like this across the lake shot. So I grab those 3 images, just choose import selected, and they're brought in. I don't have to do any exporting or saving, and they're brought into Behance in a grid format. All right, so there they are. I can click on any one of these, click on the editing window and edit the grid if I want to change the order. Maybe I want the tower in the middle, like so. I can even add additional photos from here as well if I realized I'd forgotten one, and just click done. Normally what I do when I create a project in Behance or in Adobe Portfolio for that matter is I include a lot of narrative or reflection on the project. Maybe if it's a tutorial, it's the steps and the reasons why I created the tutorial in the first place. If it's a creative project, maybe I'm talking about my mindset for that project or challenges I ran into and how I overcame them. Those pieces of reflection, those bits of reflection you incorporate into a project help a potential employer understand your mindset and help to give them a sense that you're the kind of person who will complete the challenge, right? If you run into a wall, you'll find a way to scale it. You won't just give up and walk away, right? So having those bits of reflection, I think, are really important. Having the beautiful imagery is great, but talking about how you created that beautiful imagery is also really, really important. So I'm not going to build any more with this, but I just want to walk through the final publishing process. You can see over here where it says edit project on the right. I can do a little bit of control over styling, and really basically it's just changing the background color and how much space there is between various bits of content. Nothing too heavy here. Settings is where I can sort of make this more searchable, more findable, more discoverable. I can have a cover image, always a good idea. Give the project a title. I'm just going to say the same thing here, my latest project. It'll be easy for me to find later on when I want to remove it. I can add project keywords tied into the project itself. Could be photography, could be video, could be editing, could be sound, whatever I want. I can incorporate those, even if it's a location. I could add those in, and I'm just going to do here, sound editing. And I can keep adding up to 10 keywords. And as I add them, I get some suggested tags as well. There's a great one, audio post-production. Well, that's actually really, really relevant for this particular project. And I can also categorize this. And this is really important to add. You have to add at least one category, but you can add up to 3. So in my case here, none of the ones that are in this main set are really important or really, well, actually photography, maybe I'll just throw that in there because I've got some photos in there. I can view all the fields, and there's one on cinematography, and I believe somewhere down in the S's is our S, sound design. So that's the 3. That's all I can pick. If I find a better category, I have to remove one of the other 3. Click done. I can continue to add additional information. I think this is really important, and it's often missed because sometimes, depending on the size of your monitor, the bottom part of this window is hidden. So make sure you scroll to the bottom and see where it says add co-owners and credits and more. I'm going to click on that. I can add in a description, always a good idea. So a lot of times my opening paragraph in my project becomes my description, with the little teaser to say, if you want to learn, read more, or something like that, So I'll incorporate that information there. If I had anybody from Behance, like somebody else, a Behance member who is working with me on the project, I can add them in here so we become co-owners of the project and we can both contribute to it. I can determine whether I want to disable comments or not. And as far as discoverability is concerned, if I did this for a specific purpose or company or school, I can list that information here. I can give credits. Maybe I was doing a fashion shoot and I want to give credit to the makeup and hair person, or maybe the person who was literally designing the clothes from the fashion program, whatever it happens to be. I can incorporate them here. So, share the wealth as it is and give credit where credit is due. When you've got the information that you need put in here, I'm just going to click done. I'll see here down at the bottom. Now, I haven't been working on the project long, but I can continue to save this as a draft. And if you are working on something that's going to take you more than a few minutes, I typically recommend that you do save your projects as you go as a draft, just in case. You never know, right? Technology is great when it's working, but if your internet cuts out on you or something happens, you don't want to lose the work you've been doing. So always save as a draft. In my case here, I can just choose publish, and within a few seconds, this little project will be live on my Behance site. We'll come back to the thumbnails in a minute, but you notice the very next thing that happens after the project is published. This is one of those things that differentiates Behance from, say, your own personal website, where you can publish as much content as you want, but no one even knows it's there, right? Unless you go and tell them, right? Well, Behance has these hooks into social media: Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn. I'm hoping at some point we'll see more, but those are the core ones at the moment. I can literally click on any one of these and start. It'll ask me to sign in if I need to, but I can sign into Twitter, and it turns up, it creates a post for me. I can certainly edit this, add some hashtags, whatever I want. I'm not going to do this because I'm going to get rid of this project shortly, but I can do the same thing with Facebook, Pinterest, and LinkedIn. And for those social media channels that aren't here, I've got the link, right? I just click on that little hyperlink icon, copy that link, and then I can use it anywhere and share it in any way I want, through email, through other social media channels, whatever it happens to be. And I like to do this normally when the project is done. Like when I finished it and published it, I want this to be the next thing I do, because if I don't do it then, let's face it, we all get busy and I may forget to do it, or I may end up, moving on to something else. And next thing I know, it's been a few days, right? And I'm wondering, why has nobody visited this? Why has nobody checked it out? And that's because I haven't done my due diligence and done my promotion. So in this particular case, not going to do that, but because I will be getting rid of this shortly. I'll go back to my main profile. You'll see the new project is right here, and I can change the order of these too as well. So I don't have a lot of control. Oops, didn't want to do that. I don't have a lot of control over hierarchy here, other than being able to change the order of these projects. So for example, I can grab this one that is now the second one and move it and just change the order. Or if I've got something that's seasonal and I want to bring it back to the surface because I think it's still relevant a year later, I can drag that up to the top row or the second row, just so it gets some more eyeballs, if you will. People are viewing it. So from that perspective, it's really handy. Now, once a project is completed, I do have the ability to go back in and edit it again. I did this very same thing today with the project I just published. I published it out, reread it again. Now, it doesn't matter how many times you read what you've done, you will always find things to correct once it's gone live. It just never fails. So I went in and clicked on edit and made some more changes and republished those changes. I can duplicate or clone the project. I can go back to that promotion screen we saw earlier. I can unpublish, which means it'll push that project back over into my drafts area. So it's not gone, but it's no longer live. And the last thing I can do is actually permanently delete it. Be careful with this because it is a permanent deletion. Once it's gone, it's gone. All right, so just be aware of that. So that's kind of a general workflow for Behance. I want to point out one last thing over on the left-hand side again, just under my initial information. You'll see I can edit the profile. A lot of students, I point out Behance, and they don't spend time filling out this profile information. And I really, really strongly recommend that you do, right? It's easy enough. You click on the edit button and you can add the information, the stuff you see on that left-hand side, contact information, social media accounts, a little bit of a biography, work experience, things like that. I can even add personal or custom sections as well. And also really important, if you have a paid subscription to Creative Cloud, but whether that happens to be the entire Creative Cloud or whether that happens to be, say, the photography plan, you also get access to something called Adobe Portfolio, where you can actually publish a website, literally create and publish a website with no coding. And we're going to take a look at that in a minute. But basically, you can establish an integration or setup or connection between Behance and Adobe Portfolio. So the content I create here, I can repurpose on my website without having to recode or rewrite any content. It's a huge time saver. And we'll see what I mean by that in just a second. So that's kind of Behance in a quick sort of tour, if you will. If there's any questions that have come up, I'm happy to answer them about Behance, or I can scoot right into my next topic, which is Adobe Portfolio. How are we doing out there? I will assume that silence is good, and I can continue to move forward. All right, I see a thumbs up from Aiden. Okay, thank you, Aiden. All right, so next on the list, Adobe Portfolio. Adobe Portfolio is free with a Creative Cloud subscription. You do have to have a paid subscription to use it. Oh, sorry, I'm hearing a voice.
Sorry, it took a minute to get over to the computer. And
oh, no problem.
It didn't. Thank you. It's just like loading. Yeah. Okay, here you are. We do have a quick question if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Because I've never really used anything professional to showcase myself as an artist, so I'm kind of wondering if I should be including an artist statement somewhere, or if it should just be included as a project. Or is there a way to kind of, because I know LinkedIn has like an about me kind of section that
right.
Things in, so I'm not really sure if he has should be.
Yeah, it does. You can create it as a custom section, sort of and literally call it an artist statement. I've got a couple of sections here, sort of a third person biography and a more personal, back to my roots kind of thing. But I could certainly create that artist statement in the sidebar, and you'll notice that if it gives you a certain amount of area to view it when you're on the site, and you've got the read more if you have written more content. So if I click on this, the About Jim category, it'll expand and I can read the rest of it and click read less. So an artist statement is a really good idea. Mission statement or artist statement, really good to have that information in there, and keep it close to your main content, right? So you can sort of change the order of some things, but most of this customized stuff sort of ends up at the bottom. I also have a direct link to, I use a service called Linktree, which is great from a mobile perspective too, because it's a nice little mobile set of hot links to specific types of content that I create. It's not so much an artist statement, but it's another thing I can use to sort of again, another way to get my story out there and my work out there. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Good question.
You're very welcome.
Well, we have a
great question.
Okay. All right. I think we're good. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, super. So I'm going to hop over to Adobe Portfolio. I want to point out a couple things here before we get too deep. Notice that this URL, web address, jimbabbage.photography. This is a custom domain name. So Adobe Portfolio, unlike Behance, supports the ability for you to put in your own custom domain. You have to pay for it, obviously, but you can set that up. So it is just like it is a real website. This is the visitor view that we're seeing right now. If you look really close, you'll notice that my masthead here actually a looping video animation, so it's kind of cool. The same projects that I have on Behance are here on Adobe Portfolio. I can edit them, I can change them, I can remove them, I can resort them, if you will. I can also create projects through Adobe Portfolio if I want to stick in that area. There's You can do it in Behance or Portfolio, either way. You'll notice along the top, all full web navigation, like a real website, because that's what it is. This is something Behance can't do for you. It can't give you the ability to categorize your work. So I have new projects. I have my stock photography again dynamically linked because of my Adobe ID. I'm basically pushing my Adobe stock content right over to my Adobe portfolio. And in this case, it's collections of work, so themes, if you will. Unlike just in Behance, where it's the last 1,000 images you had been accepted by the curators. I can break this up into other categories. I've got essays and insights, tutorials. I have contact page. So not a secure page. Don't put your credit card information in here. But if I want, people can reach out to me and ask me questions. I've had people contact me for doing webinars, doing conference sessions. Occasionally, a person will contact about buying a print. So you can build that out very, very easily. No coding required, right? Got my branding here. It's something I created with Adobe Illustrator. And then I've got my social media links as well. Okay, so I'll just go back to the new work. I want to point this one out. This is where all my new content goes. All right, automatically when I publish something on Behance, it gets pushed to this section of my Adobe portfolio. And you can see that project I was mentioning earlier about sound editing that I put live this morning is already here. Okay, now this is the live visitor view. All right, so I can scroll through here. You see, as I mouse over any of these projects, I get this little bit of information about the project. When we were in Behance, you'll recall I was talking about that description area when you do it in the settings. That whatever I put in that description shows up in this area in my Adobe portfolio. So I don't have to rewrite this content. I can certainly rewrite it if I want to, but I don't have to. And if I click on any one of these, I'll just click on this other one here. I'm visiting the website. This is not my editing view. I can see the project, right? So there is all the information. This is all about making money using by being a contributor to Adobe stock. You can read through this. It's basically content from my live website. So how do I get this stuff here? Well, as I mentioned, if you're a contributor, if you are one of actually three things. If you have a paid subscription to Creative Cloud or the photography plan, or you are a contributor to Adobe stock in good standing, meaning that you're contributing content, I think on a semi-regular basis, then you have at least 20 assets that have been approved for licensing. You can get actually access to Adobe stock, Adobe Portfolio for free. Okay, but I'm not going to go down that road right now. What I do want to point out here is I'm currently in the editing mode. I'm going to go back a couple steps and just go right out to the main site. If I go to portfolio.adobe.com, it will actually present me with and log in with my Adobe ID. I'll be able to actually create a new project, create a new website, create a landing page for an upcoming event or show that I'm doing. And bear with me for a sec. There we go. Okay, so here at portfolio.adobe.com, I'm signed in with my Adobe ID. I'm just going to click on Edit Sites. And these are all the different sites I have up and running. One of the nice things about Adobe Portfolio is, unlike many other situations, it supports up to 5 different websites or landing pages. So I don't have to have one website. Maybe I'm got a couple different focuses in my life. Maybe it's architectural photography and macro photography, and they don't really sort of gel as two things that might be together. If I want to, I can create 2 different distinct portfolio websites that focus on each of these different career paths, if you will. In my case here, my default one is the jimbabbage.photography. The other ones, you'll see the URLs here, not quite so memorable. Okay, these are created by the service. I could, again, if I wanted to and wanted to buy domain names, I could attach domain names to these if I wanted to, but I'm just sticking with the one. So I can click on any one of these to go into that particular project or that particular portfolio or website to edit it, Or in my case, I can also go here to where it says new site. And literally just by clicking on that plus sign, I'm brought into the website creation tool. This is a template driven website creation tool. There are 12 different templates you can pick from, and you can customize them to your heart's content after the fact. But here they are. Okay, these 12, and they are meant to be very visual websites. They're about showcasing work, showcasing visual work in many cases, right? So they tend to focus on large, big, colorful imagery in many cases. And when you're starting out, you may not have a lot of projects you're going to share. So maybe I'm going to go with something very clean, very simple, like Ludwig here. All right, I can click on that and I'll get a sense of what that website's going to look like based on the template. I can scroll through here and see how the work is going to be represented. I can see what other elements have been put into place. There's an about and contact page. So this is a little video in here, nice little thing going on there, a little bit of a bio on this artist, and then a way to contact the artist. Okay, so that's what that one looks like. It doesn't mean I'm limited to these 2 pages or collections of work. It just means that's the starting point for this particular template. While I'm here, I can go through and I can look at the other templates as well. There's Hagen. Okay, again, slightly different look and feels. I mouse over it, there's a slightly different presentation. And I can just keep on going. I'm not going to show you every single one of them, but basically when I find one that I like, I go to this big blue button here in the upper right corner and choose use this theme. We use the word theme instead of template, but it's basically, that's what it is a template. I can click on this, and within a few minutes or a few seconds, depending on how things are connected, it will start building out your website. Now, in my case, I have that integration to Behance. So the slight delay you're seeing here is Adobe Portfolio reaching out to Adobe Behance and sucking in all of my content. That is so cool because I don't have to lift a finger to do that. It's just literally building the site with content I've already created. And within a few minutes or a few seconds, the site will be live. It may take a little bit here because I have a lot of content, as we saw on Adobe Behance. But basically, that's the starting point. Now, once this is done, I can continue to create new projects inside of Adobe Portfolio, much like I could do in Behance. I could start right from scratch in Adobe Portfolio. There's a bit more control over things like fonts and alignment and positioning of elements and things like that, because it's more of a website rather than Behance is a little more of a community or portal, right? So there it is. It took a few minutes, but it's pulled in all this content that I already have, right? I didn't have to connect this stuff or relink it or rewrite it or anything. It's all here. I can certainly edit this. I can remove these projects if I want to. I can add additional projects. It's up to me, but it's all tied into that particular theme that I started with, right? I forget which one that was, to be honest, but there it is. Now, I'm not stuck with that theme. If I look at this with my work and say, oh, you know what, actually, I'm not so sure this is the theme I want. Well, I can go over to the themes section here in the sidebar over on the left-hand side, and I can go back to those themes and I can pick something different. Maybe I'm going to pick Mercedes, right? And within a few seconds, Adobe Portfolio will rebuild my site with this new theme. There it is. Didn't take long at all, right? So I'm not stuck with something if I make a choice. I can always change it. This left-hand sidebar, we won't go through this in heavy detail, but this is where you control the site. This is where you control global changes like colors, fonts. It's a way to control your navigation. Right now, you see I have 2 links here, work and contact, and those are all based on 2 pages that came with the theme. So if I choose pages here, you can see under work, that's the default collection of all my content. There's everything that came in from Behance, okay? So I can literally use the little Behance icon. I can look really close. Okay, so it tells me it's a direct link to Behance. So there's a benefit to that. I mean, obviously I didn't have to rebuild the work, but I can also make corrections in either place, Portfolio or Behance, and I can resync the changes and make updates to it, and it will appear in both locations. So that can be really beneficial. I can also control what's visible right now. All of these different projects are visible, but maybe, I don't want the iPhone art one. This is an old one. I don't want this showing up on this in this collection. So I can do a couple different things. I can delete the actual page, the project from here. It will still be on my Behance site, or I can just hide it from view, just like that. Turn it off, and now that iPhone art won't be visible. In fact, let's make this really obvious so I don't have to do a lot of scrolling. I'll turn off the BAMF project. Whoops. I got a little heavy handed there and actually clicked on the project itself. So let me go back to pages, go back to the work section. There we go. Go to pages and turn that off. And just like that, it's gone. Now it's not deleted, it's just hidden from the navigation. We're not going to see it until I decide to reactivate it. Okay, so you can get a high degree of customization. You can even password protect specific pages, specific collections like this collection of work, or the entire website if you want to, if it's important to you. So I'm going to go back one step here. As I said, we're not going to dig too deep into these. There's lots of great information on how to literally customize everything in your Adobe portfolio. But I do want to show you two more things here. First of all, how do I create a project when I'm in Adobe Portfolio? Maybe this is where I want to be. Maybe I don't really want to use Behance. Maybe I don't have anything in Behance. Click on that plus sign there to add a page. And you can see my options are create a brand new distinct page on its own, create a welcome page, pull in content from a Lightroom album. This is pretty exciting as a photographer. I can literally reach out to an existing portfolio or collection of work in Lightroom and pull that in as a grid just within seconds. I can create a collection, which is what you see with this work page behind the dialog box. It's a collection of a larger number of projects, right? I'll just cancel out of that and just click on there one more time. And then I can also create a hyperlink to something else external from the website, right? So that's how I can create content. If I choose create a page, I'll give the page a title. I'm going to call it artist statement. Let's go ahead with something that's kind of relevant. I can decide where it's going to go. It can go in the work collection. But in my case, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and add it to my main navigation as a standalone page that I'll see in my main navigation. I can decide to make that my home page if I want to. If I feel that I want everyone to see my artist statement before they see anything else, I could make that my home page. I'm going to leave it as it stands for now, and I'm just going to go ahead and create the page. And within a few seconds, you'll see artist statement now shows up as a navigation element. Now there's nothing in there, but very much like Behance, I can add images, text, photo grid, pull in content from Lightroom, upload video or audio, embed content from another source, add hyperlink buttons, add my social media icons, or create a form, contact form. Okay, I can do any of those things in here. And very much like we saw with Behance, it's just a matter of clicking on one of those items and I can start adding some text. Here's some text. Really exciting. I know, very, very, very creative stuff. As I mouse over that text, you'll see a little flag show up. And that gives me the ability to do things like change the formatting of the text or the alignment of that particular content area. I can add content above, below, to the side. So maybe I'm going to have an artist statement. And then beside that, I might actually add an image. So if I go here, just quickly, let's see, let's grab something that is my face. It's not from a wedding. There we go. Okay, I can drop that into place and I can type in my text on the other side, right? And I can even change the balance between these. So maybe I want the picture bigger and the text area smaller, or the other way around. Maybe I want have a lot more room for text and a smaller photo. So as I'm building this out, once I've got it done, again, it's only visible to me, very much like Behance at this stage. You're kind of in draft mode. But basically, once I'm happy with what I've done, down at the bottom here, bottom right, publish site. Now, in this case, it's saying published site because the site has not been published. But if I already had a published site and I was creating a new page, it would just say update site. Okay, same idea. So I literally click on that green icon, and that will take up one of my 5 portfolio slots. In this case, the last of my 5 portfolio slots that I can set up inside of Behance. Lots of different things you can do here. Like I said, from a customization perspective, the last thing I'll show you is under integrations. How did all that Behance magic happen? Well, that's because by default, because I have a Behance account, my integration with Behance is turned on automatically. So I could turn that off if I want and get rid of all that content. But the nice thing about this integration is when it's turned on, as soon as I publish something live on Behance, it's automatically going to be pushed out to this website as well. And then I just need to go to Adobe Portfolio and update the site for those changes, those new projects to go live. I can also add Lightroom albums, as we saw earlier. I've got a few of them in my main portfolio. And then also integrations with Adobe Stock. That sort of happens on the Adobe Stock side in your contributor panel. But basically, I create collections in Adobe Stock of themes, that kind of stuff. It could be based on color, could be based on time of year, could be based on subject matter. And those collections I can push out to Adobe Portfolio. So another way to get that work seen, hopefully noticed, and hopefully licensed. Okay. Like I said, lots of granularity here. This is one of the 2 major differences between Behance and Adobe Portfolio. A lot more granular control in Adobe Portfolio. Okay. The other difference is that this is a website. You aren't coding it. It's hosted by Adobe on Adobe servers, but it is a website, which means that when I publish this, nobody's going to know. No one, until I tell them. So that concept of building your brand and pushing your brand out, incorporating your website into your other social media channels, into your email signatures, into tools like Behance, is really important, because like any website, just because you make it doesn't mean anyone's going to find it except for your mom, who you probably sent it to in an email, right? And maybe your instructor. So it's really important, if you build something like this and spend the time to do it, you also spend the time to promote it and make sure people are aware that it exists. Let them know when new content is live, that kind of thing. All right. Okay. So that is the second. Oh, and the other difference I already mentioned between Portfolio and Behance. I don't think I was very clear on this. Adobe Behance is totally free. All right. You don't have to pay for a Creative Cloud subscription of any kind. All you have to have is a free Adobe ID. And you can build out as much content as you want on Adobe Behance to your heart's content. Doesn't cost a thing. Okay, you get all the bells and whistles that are part of Behance, even if you aren't a paying subscriber to Adobe.com. So, which is cool. I think that's a really great thing that Adobe's done. Adobe Portfolio, you can create a portfolio, a website for free, but you can't publish it unless you have a paid subscription or you are a contributing member to Adobe Stock. So keep that in mind as well. Okay. This link, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I just literally found this last night as I was scrolling through stuff on LinkedIn, of all places. This is a great article on how to make a standout portfolio. It's written by the Behance team, talks about Behance, talks about the kinds of content that's there, how to curate your content. Really great resource, some really good guidance here and advice on curating your work, on how to sort of make sure people see the work you want them to see, that kind of thing. So that'll be in that link, that snapshot link we saw earlier, which is, I think I still have it live here. And Katie has this as well, so she can send it to you. But that QR code will take you to a page that has a whole bunch of links for Portfolio, for Behance, for branding, that kind of stuff. So keep that in mind. So I just wanted to mention that. The third piece of technology we're going to look at is Adobe Express. But before I jump there, just want to make sure there's no burning questions. I know we're at 1 o'clock. I don't know what your time frame is here.
Yeah,
for
we
class.
had to leave for class. And I know there's still some people on Zoom. Do any of the Zoom folks have questions they can put in the chat or take yourself off of mute? All right, well, I think the folks who are left, do you all want to hear about Adobe Express, the last part?
Okay. And so I'll do this briefly. It is Adobe Express is both a free and a paid service. You can through your free Adobe ID create websites, create graphics, or web pages, sorry, graphics for social media, do some basic simple editing of project or types of projects. So if I go back to the main page here, you can see I can pick from a bunch of pre-built professionally created templates. If I've got a creator's block and I want to build out a social media graphic, I can actually pull from one of these and start my process and add my own content to it. I can do real quick things like resize an image or edit a video just simply by uploading it. Maybe I want to resize the video or merge two videos together I shot on my smartphone. Maybe I want to take a video I have and turn it into a animated GIF to share on TikTok or Instagram or whatever. I can do that kind of thing. So these are very discrete, specific actions you can do. You don't have to open up Photoshop or Premiere Pro or any other tool to do these very discrete things. So if you have something you want to do quickly, this is a great option for working with that, including things like with video, especially changing the speed. Slowing a video down or speeding it up is something that's usually a couple levels deep in most editing tools for video. Here it's literally, I just click on this option and I can either play around with the sample or I can upload my own video. And you can see here I can go super slow or super fast. I'll just click super fast and I can play that back.
Good morning, Philippines.
There you go.
We're gonna do it again.
They're going fast. Okay, so I can do that kind of thing really quickly, download that result and utilize that elsewhere. I obviously use my own content, but there are a practice file there for you as well. I can create a whole range of different types of things, graphics for Instagram, for Facebook. I can create a branding component. If I have a paid subscription, I can actually create a brand, create logos, and actually tie those colors and fonts into content I create on Adobe Express. But I can also do things like build out web pages or generate that QR code we saw earlier. So web pages are, again, really easy to do. Another way to create a simple but very visually appealing project. You're guided through the whole process. Add a title, add a subtitle, literally just click and start typing. If I click on the plus sign, it's basically the universal indicator that I can add some content. In this case here, it's going to be add a background photo, a title photo. So maybe I'll just grab something like these palm trees and just like that. I'm sourcing images from Adobe Stock. There's a whole collection of free images I can use through Adobe Stock for my projects if I want to, or I can obviously, if I'm a photographer or an illustrator, maybe I'm going to be building out my own graphics and use those and just upload them to work with it. So I can go ahead and add that title in my title. And if I scroll down, you can see very much like Behance, very much like Adobe Portfolio, I can create or add various content, photos, text, hyperlink buttons. I can embed links to videos from YouTube or Vimeo, create a photo grid. We know what those are all about, and a couple of neat little layout mechanisms specific to Adobe Express web pages, which are glide shows, which are a nice big colorful image with content sitting inside the image, or a split layout where I'm basically having a graphic on one side and text and other elements on the other side. And then again, once I've created something that I'm happy with, I can always preview it, see what it looks like. If I like the look of it, I can go ahead and click the share button, choose publish and share link. The title's pulled in from my title page. I can pick a category. Let's go with photography. I can turn on or turn off my author status. Anything I pull in from Adobe Stock will automatically be added as a photo credit at the end of the project, which is very cool. Don't have to worry about finding that later on. And basically just choose create link. And within a few seconds, this web page, not full website, but a single page, is live I can go ahead and copy that URL, or again, like we saw with Behance, share it to social media, even things like Microsoft Teams or Google Classroom. So there you go. That is like a whirlwind tour of Express. A lot of fun. I build a lot of content with Adobe Express. I write tutorials with it. I tell stories with it. I do photo essays with it. Really enjoy working with the tool because it is another way to share my work. In fact, often when I'm doing presentations for customers, I'll use Adobe Express. I won't open PowerPoint. I don't like PowerPoint, but I won't open it. I'll build my presentation in Adobe Express because it's a great visual way to share my information. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. And I apologize for going a little late. I got deeper into Behance and Portfolio than I thought I was going to, but I just wanted people to have a grasp of how those things were useful to you. And yeah, you guys have sat still for just over an hour with me. Thank you very much. Hopefully the ones who had to go to class can catch the recording later on. And Katie, if there are questions after the fact, please feel free to let me know. I'll be happy to answer them later.
That sounds great.
So on.
Thank you so much, Jim. That was really, really great. We really appreciate it. The folks here, any last questions, or Zoom folks, last chance? Well, thank you, Jim. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
I can definitely forward those questions over if anything comes up, but we appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you all, and have a great day and a good rest of the week. Take care, and I hope to see you guys creating. Do let me know if you build a portfolio or start your Behance site. Send me a note, and I'm happy to have a look at it.
That's awesome. Thank
All
you.
right.
Yeah.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.